Welcome back to Politics on the Prairie. I'm your host, Dan Williams, or Spartan D34, depending on where you find me. And today I'm very excited to be covering the age turnout of State Question 820. Yes, here it is, long awaited video about the turnout of different age groups for the state question. I will also be doing further series of backdated analysis for age and other elections that I have made maps of, so be on the lookout for that. This will be a free video because I want to show everyone what I've been working on over the last few weeks. A lot of time went into this video, but enough about all that, let's get into the details. So what I've done here is broken up the electorate into 5 different groups, and our first group here is 18 to 30. I tried to use 12 years age gap. I figured that would cover a large enough group where I wouldn't have low percents in too many regions while still having a cohesive narrative of a group. So younger people being 18 to 20. Plus, it matches up with census numbers a bit. Anyway, let's get into the details. So, as we can see here, statewide turnout for 18 to 30-year-olds was 6.38%. Now, this is turnout based on the entirety of the electorate. So, as the entire electorate goes for State Question 820, 6.38% were between the ages of 18 and 30. Looking closer at the map, we will see that generally there's a lower amount of turnout overall. I mean, it only is 6% of the state, but some areas not even having any 0% turnout. Now, you will also see some areas that have high instances of turnout, like here, where that's just, this precinct is low turnout anyway. Probably one person turned out to vote there that was 18 to 30, so not a lot of people there. But there are actually some instances where there are quite a few people turning out that are in this age range, mainly on college campuses. If we take a look at Stillwater, you can see that there's 2 dark purple precincts down here in downtown Stillwater next to the campus. And you can see there's a dark precinct here where Langston is. Now, if we go zoom in on the Oklahoma City Metro, we can see that up near UCO, it's a darker precinct. Down here in Norman, around OU, of course, we get lots of darker precincts, which indicate higher turnout as a percent of the electorate being 18 and 30. And even areas like OCCC right here have a darker precinct. Other areas of note, we have TU over in the Tulsa area. There is some concentration near NSU, out in Tahlequah, here in Pontotoc County at ECU, and even other instances such as, I believe, Southwestern Oklahoma State University out here in the Clinton area. Apologies if I got that wrong. I believe it's Southwestern. And even here in Southeastern in Durant. There also just happens to be some other pockets to, again, the lower turnout universe of those precincts, but there even is a lot of gray on this map, which indicates no turnout at all. Moving forward, we have 31 to 43. Now, as we can see with this map, it's much more filled in. We don't have those gray precincts with 0 turnout. We have a much higher turnout in general. As you note, we'll have this really dark precinct here in Lawton. That is the military base, Fort Sill. So I can imagine that these 31 to 43-year-olds are probably the officer class that has been stationed here for a while that is voting. But again, I would like to caution that this is a low turnout precinct in general, so it's more susceptible to the swings of having, a large percentage of people turn out. Now, if we look closer here, we can see that downtown Oklahoma City, sort of the Paseo area, around the core commercial zones, that has a lot of concentrated turnout here. This is where I'd like to call the young professional zone. of the area. And we can see that kind of chart up through this region of the Oklahoma City metro, kind of going along Highway 74 and then going out into northwestern Oklahoma County. We see a similar effect in the Tulsa metro area, with central Tulsa being where these young professionals are concentrated. At least that's my theory anyway. Moving to my next group, you can see we have the 44 to 56 turnout. Much more filled in map, 18.43%. Overall turnout, as you can see, this is 14.09%. So increasing turnout as we continue higher up in age. We can see over here that, we have the dark precinct over here. Again, low turnout precinct, so one person, two people making up the electorate over there. But generally more filled in overall. Downtown's a little lighter, but the outer areas around downtown are darker. Certainly the outer areas of Norman, moving away from downtown, here in Tulsa. And then there are some random spots where you have higher areas of this turnout, such as southern Woodward County, portions of McCurtain, and Kiowa County. Now I know this says D on it, but that's supposed to be deleted, so apologies for the oversight on that part. This doesn't represent anything partisan, just want to clear that up. So you can see 57 to 69. We can see a lot of the maps are way darker now, 30.77%. This is our highest turnout group. We can see we have. We look around. Most precincts are, purple, dark purple. We look at the metro regions. We can see that while downtown is now lighter, this area, the portion of the Hefner corridor, is now lighter. We can see pretty much everywhere else, all of the rural and all the ex-urban zones are much darker. So this seems to lend to a trend that generally the Democratic areas, downtown of Oklahoma City, downtown of Tulsa, the electorate is younger. I have yet to look into any sort of correlation or causation effects there, but it does lend itself to the idea that younger voters vote more Democratic. But we'll see how that holds up as we compare with an actual partisan election and, of course, the statewide registration file. But continuing on through the Tulsa metro, we can see that there is mixed turnout all across, and there generally seems to be higher turnout across the area with this age group, especially in northern Tulsa, and then out here in eastern and western Tulsa, the lighter groups were in that young professional zone that we highlighted earlier. We go to Lawton, we actually see some high turnout in Lawton this time, with West Lawton, East Lawton, kind of just all over with higher turnout. Now, looking at Lawton demographically, I can tell that it's a much older community in general. And I do have some personal experience with Lawton that may or may not unfairly shade this, but I think it accurately shades it. My grandparents lived in the town for 50 years, and there actually is quite a larger, older community in this area of the state, especially across the Southwest in general. As we can see, there's a lot of darker purples out here. So that lends itself to the fact that, with a larger share of the registration, they're going to make up a larger share of the electorate. Now we move on here to our final group, the 70 plus turnout. Not as high as 57 to 69, but pretty close with 30.32% of the electorate. We see some interesting patterns. Not as widespread as 57 to 69 was, but there are, generally it's higher overall across the state. But if you get in the metro areas, there are some specific regions that really stick out, which is quite interesting. So we'll start, of course, with the OKC metro. And what really pops for me here is Moore and Southside kind of congeal into this one mass, where there's a lot of older turnout. That's quite interesting to me and may color some of the reason those results shake out the way they do if you have this electorate that is mainly older. The Hefner corridor is much darker here, as it has been compared to other electorate analyses, which is really interesting. 70-year-olds, you'd think retirement age, but then again, a lot of people here have college degrees, so you have to wonder, is this the latent management class that occupied Oklahoma industries of days past? So there's definitely more analysis to be done, but you can see it syncs pretty well with where you see a high college education rates. So north of the northwest Oklahoma County, Edmond, even out here towards Nazarene University or Southern Nazarene University in Bethany, you see these higher rates, but also in the historically black east side. Older black voters have a higher tendency to turn out than younger black voters. And we get down here in Norman, we can see that, of course, near campus, you have those lower rates, but as you move out away from campus, they get much higher pretty quickly. Going into the Tulsa metro, of course, where that young professionals corridor was, and near the universities, it's quite low. But moving out from those areas, we can see down here in central Tulsa County that it's quite high, which is pretty interesting and might explain some of the Republican lean of that area if it's mainly older white voters. One of the things I'll do eventually is I'll eventually get around to is analyzing the race based on precincts. It'll be a bit more speculative because race isn't included in the statewide voter file or in election results for that matter. But there are ways we can use census data mapped to precincts to get to that. But that's a map for the future. Moving towards Lawton, we can again see that it has a lot more purple and darker purple as compared to previous maps, with of course the base being completely vacant of this color because, well, there aren't probably many 70-year-olds in the service. In fact, I'd be surprised if there are any, especially over the age of 70. So, one key finding I'd like to point out before we conclude here is that if you combine the 70 plus turnout with the 57 to 69 turnout, you can see that it makes up 61% of the electorate. Now, with 61% of the electorate, you're probably not going to be passing legalization of marijuana. Because simply, most older folks are against the passage. Most of the older folks I talk to, now granted my limited experience, cannot color the entire experience of Oklahoma's 57 to plus electorate, but it is some qualitative analysis. I could not find a single person over the age of 57 that wanted to vote for this state question. And I bet if we could somehow map this one for one, that'd be a violation of the secret ballot, so we can't. You'd see the vast supermajority of these voters voting against it, whereas you would see the vast majority of younger voters voting for this. And then it also becomes a question of campaign method. Now, in the no side of this campaign saw a lot of traditionally Republican methods in Oklahoma, which that means they sent mail. And there's a lot of political science out there that says mail is more effective with older voters. Well, if older voters make up 61% of the electorate and mail is more effective with them, it's going to be pretty effective here. Whereas you need in-person door knocking to contact younger portions of the electorate, and we didn't have a lot of that. The other question is, how effective are ads in this regard? And it looks like the ads didn't really break through. Not saying that we need to go full on mail only in our elections to deal with the older electorate, but it is something to consider moving forward how we arm our campaigns or how we run our campaigns if we have such an electorate that is bent towards older voters. Now, of course, many people will say, like, oh, Dan, this was obvious. We all talk about the gray vote or older people working at the polling place and being at the polling place. And sure, yes, in many cases it is obvious. But now we're actually able to quantify it. Well, I'm able to quantify it and share it with you. And it'll be interesting to see how this changes when we compare it to the 2022 elections or any local elections that I'm able to get the voter files on moving forward, and especially the registration universe. I'm sure it won't be too different, but it'll be interesting to see how small changes in the age of the electorate produce different partisan results. But as always, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in today. Again, this video will be made free for everyone to consume to show that I've finally been able to make this age breakdown. I truly ask that you share this video as many people as you can. As far as I know, I'm the only one that's made something like this, and I'm all about educating and spreading knowledge about how Oklahoma elections are operating on the surface. And of course, ask your friends and family and whoever you want to know more about Oklahoma elections to subscribe to my Patreon. The more people that are able to subscribe to my Patreon, the better I am able to dedicate time to this and increase the quality of videos, but also the quantity of them. So if you want to see more content like this, encourage everyone you know to subscribe here. Thank you very much for tuning in. I've been Dan Williams with Politics on the Prairie, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day.